Hey, it's Ryan with QLZ. We're getting back to interviews. I had enough time on vacation, went home and did all that stuff. And we're talking with Marc today. We're talking with Kevin. You guys are part of Foundry, a band that we just added into rotation starting today. You guys will be on the Artist Spotlight next week. And it's great to talk to you guys. I said, I got to spend you guys back when I was living in Wisconsin, and about 3 years later, finally getting to meet you guys. So how you doing?
You as well, man. Thanks for having.
Thanks for having us. Good to be here.
It's great to be here. And before we got rolling, man, you guys have the very opposite hairstyles, man. Marc's got the good head for being bald and rocking that look. And Kevin, dude, you told me you're late to the game, man. I've had this mullet for 10 years. So Illinois State Fair is right around the corner. We're having a mullet competition. So if you guys find yourselves here in Central Illinois in the next week and a half, man, just stop on by.
Yeah, I get that.
Kevin's next band is going to be called 10-Year Mark.
Yeah, I get a little jealous when I look on social media and see those little kid competitions for best mullet. And I was like, man, if that was around when I was a kid, I would have taken home the title. And those kids have some really long ones, even longer than mine.
Yeah. Well, I know you said your goal is to get it out, down past your shoulder blades, down mid-back?
Yeah, I mean, it always gets to a point where it's a little tough because, the split ends break and stuff like that. And when I go on stage and stuff like that, I'll, even doll it up more and straighten it and stuff like that sometimes. So it takes time to get to that point. Okay. But we'll get there someday. I don't care if I got to put extensions in it. I'll get there.
Richard Marx.
Yeah, exactly.
Richard Marx. He's got a killer mullet. Remember that? That before your time?
I think a little bit before my time. I think a little bit.
Yeah. Richard Marx before my time, but I love older, I'm one of those guys that has a preeminent nostalgia for anything 80s, even though it's not my era, but it's obviously it's great when you have streaming and stuff like that. It's that much more accessible to go back to those classic rock songs and stuff like that and kind of get into that. And it influences your writing and stuff like that too.
Mm-hmm. Now I have a question for you guys. I was going to ask it at the end because I've been asking every band, at the end. This used to be a blog post I used to do back when I was in Wisconsin, but since you talk about, your love for 80s albums, 80s rock and everything like that, man, you guys albums, it's interesting if bands want to put albums together, if they want to do EPs, if they want to do singles. But to me, I still have a CD player in my car and love buying a full length album. Man, your guys' favorite full length, your favorite no skip albums of all time, man. Some albums you put on and you're just like, I'm not skipping one song on this. Every song on here is a masterpiece, start to finish. No albums you don't skip any songs on.
I've got a few.
Okay.
I've got a few. I would say just about anything Metallica, all of their albums. Queensryche, Mindcrime. I think it's called Operation Mindcrime.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think also that's a bit of a the whole album is themed, tells a story.
It's concept record.
Concept record, yeah. Yep. So that forgot all about those. Well, anyway, so those are a few for me, and then probably a Van Halen or a Rush, Moving Pictures. I can definitely get through that one. That's a repeat, actually.
Okay.
I can get on Moving Pictures and listen to that 2-3 times in a row on a road trip. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've got a few also. Obviously, it's a counter to Marc's, which I'm a big fan of Metallica. It's just the same, or really in reality, all of the four big, the big four of metal. But there's always the constant comparison when it relates to if you're more of a Metallica guy, if you're more like a Megadeth guy, and I always found myself being a Megadeth guy. In fact, yeah. I think a lot of that may have related to the fact that the first two bands that introduced me, I had a next door neighbor that was older than me and my brother. I didn't have any other kids my age and stuff like that. And the next door neighbor was probably he was the local outcast metal kid that was just collecting cassettes and stuff like that. And he gave me, because up to that point it was just pop records that my mom would show me, Michael Jackson, Prince, things like that. And then he just sent me home with 2 cassettes, and it was Iron Maiden, the record that had, I can't remember the name of the record right now, but it was the record that had Aces High on it. And then it was Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction.
Okay.
And, I've always been, both have had a significant influence in their own way, but that Countdown to Extinction record was one of the first records that was in relation to our subject here about a record you could listen all the way through, that just completely changed my mind, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. But then there's other records that I can listen to completely the whole way through, like the Purple Rain record by Prince. I can listen all the way, like 3-4 times, stuff like that. But I'm very diverse with how I kind of go through genres and things like that.
So how did your mom like you coming home and blaring Iron Maiden and blaring Megadeth? Because I remember when I started getting into, I'm mid-30s, so when I got into nu metal, when Korn and Linkin Park and Papa Roach became all the rage and everything, my parents a lot of times would be like, "What the hell are you listening to?" And I tell them, so you said your mom had a lot of pop records for you. So what did she think when you started blaring Maiden and Megadeth?
I was a nicer kid. Like when I got introduced to that, it was like, some kids get introduced earlier, but I was already maybe like 11, 12 years old, which for some kids is kind of a late arrival to rock and metal, but it's a pretty good time on average and things like that. And I was a nicer kid at that point where I was wearing headphones. It's only when I got, because, I have, strongly religious parents that came here, late into their 20s and teens from Portugal. They're immigrant parents, so like they're a lot more heavy-handed, and the rules were in place. And it was, only until I got into my late teens that I really started to rebel. And to be fair, a lot of that happened more along the lines of when the nu metal era was really kicking off, and that's when music would get played a lot louder. That's when I'd be like literally in the office working security at Target, playing bands like Murder Dolls and Limp Bizkit loud in the office and getting fired the next day. And then, when I first started listening to those records, I was still listening with headphones and things like that. And it was only later on that I would literally be forcing my mom for me and my friend in the backseat of the car to play like the entire debut record of Slipknot, you know what I mean? And with her just not understanding what the hell is going on and what is happening to her son.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. I love hearing those stories. Obviously, we want to chat about you guys as well for your band, because again, man, Crocodile Tears is the new song that's out right now. And usually, like I said, it's a song that went into rotation here on QLZ today. It's a song we're getting on the Artist Spotlight. So it's you guys can be a band that our listeners get a little bit more familiar with. I always like to ask kind of, whatever you guys feel like sharing about the song. If you want to share what inspired it, what it's about, I pretty much leave that up to the band of whatever you guys just want to share about this song and want the audience to know about it.
Well, the song itself, like when you're telling stories, sometimes you try to make it something that's, you can be pretentious, and you're obviously writing from your own stories, you know what I mean? But you want to try to write it where it's indirect enough where anyone can take it and apply it to their own experience. And sometimes, whether you're, some bands will go down the lane of, like, we talk about concept albums and things like that, where you're writing like a totally different universe that you want to almost visually paint a picture for someone. That's not necessarily my bag entirely. But sometimes you want to kind of write like this halfway painted story that you want the person to take from. So you kind of like paint a general picture, almost like you're making a little bit of a movie in your mind, and you want them to relate to your story through that imagery. So Crocodile Tears, I mean, if you kind of imagine it through the eyes of, this kid that's in LA, similar to kind of the song has lyrics about having too many California friends and things like that. I've never lived in California, so it's not something that's a direct reference to anything that's ever happened in my life or anything like that. But when we're in there writing it, it's kind of a reference to the idea of someone that has all these fair weathered friends that at first in the new age of the world, he's trying to accommodate to through like, having this curated profile on social media where everything looks like his life is so great, but in reality, that's what you're curating for people to see about your life and putting on your best face. When in reality, you're probably going home and you can't pay your bills and you're going through all this kind of stuff. And these friends that you're making in that area that are part of that same whole like curated lifestyle of like, everything is so great and all these perfect pictures and everybody looks perfect. Everybody's dealing with all these kind of different demons, and the character that's kind of there in that song singing is kind of sick and tired of accommodating and putting on this face for everybody else when he really just kind of, sometimes feels like he's like at the top of the building ready to pop off. And really that's what he wants the true show to be, because he's kind of going through all these different things. It's like all these fair weathered fake friends that you're dealing with every day and kind of being sick and tired of dealing with that because of all the stuff you're really going through. I
love it. And like I told you guys, Marc, you guys, we talked about, how long we do interviews now, and sometimes people's attention spans are so small. I mean, you guys did the song. I think it's a 2-minute, 13-second song. It's a banger. It hits you right in the face. And I have like a love, I don't want to say love-hate relationship with short songs like this, because it's like I really get into a song and it's like, damn it, I want more. But I guess that's such a great feeling to leave for the audience, is for them to want more. So was that kind of the idea the whole time with this song, was let's go in, let's make like a little over 2-minute banger, and let's keep the fans wanting more?
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. Not to come off as contrived, but we do think about these things.
Yep.
And yeah, it's leave them wanting more. In the streaming world, we're far out of the AOR stuff, right? We're far out of concept albums. Now it's short and sweet. Attention spans are limited. Let's give them something that they can wrap their little brains around, including us, and leave them wanting more, maybe even spin it a few more times, because we see that now where it's just like, it's already over, man, spin that again. Hey dude, spin that again. What was that? It's already over. They just heard it like a jingle. So it was intentional that way, and not all songs are written that way, but that one was. So yeah.
I was going to say, like, what do you guys want to do the rest of the year for music? Again, I know, man, we had this awesome conversation about, full-length records and this, our favorite complete albums of all time and stuff like that. So what do you guys want to do for the rest of the year when it comes to music? Like, do you guys, want to play the singles game for a little while, or I guess kind of what's the plan for Foundry, and when you guys want to release some more music?
Yeah, we're going to continue to release singles. Foundry's been in the singles economy for almost its entire existence. We did start the group about 10 years ago with a full-length album, which was just a collection of ideas. But ever since then, that was back 2015. We released our first and only album, and we've been in the singles game ever since. We've got a couple more coming down this year. We got 2 more that we want to release this year, and then next year and all the years, same shit, man. Just write. The songs aren't just short, but the albums, they call singles albums too. One song album. They're short, so it's one after another is the game that we're in, and we believe that's we fully embrace that. We're cool with that. We like that. Hunkering down for a year or two and writing something to be released is we believe that you're gonna be forgotten if you do that. So we just want to kind of call it. We call it waterfall, where you just kind of keep coming with new music, and I think that's best for all of our inspiration, for our attention too. Just to kind of keep it like a relationship. Just keep it cool, keep the vibe good. You want the music to be good, and you want the relations with your band dudes to be good, and I think that carries over into the music and into the audience. Same thing. I think at least subliminally they picked that up. Yeah. And that's the vibe we're putting off, man.
Yeah. Now, do you guys like being able to give, and it's what I've asked a lot of bands too, they're like, we do love full-length records still, but the fact that we can give a song so much attention, if we want to take the time to make a music video behind it and really just market one song, have you enjoyed the process of being able to release singles and really focusing your attention on one song and giving it kind of the love and attention that it deserves?
Well, realistically, you'll notice, like, when you're kind of in a band and you're releasing music often enough in a single format, obviously the way streaming is, it's kind of structured to kind of make it, more productive that way. But still, you'll always notice when you're promoting those things on social media, the fans are like, when am I going to hear the album? When am I going to hear the album? You want to give them that album. And it's not to say that can't eventually come someday, but realistically, sometimes what the fans want doesn't necessarily work for the band at that particular time. And the band just kind of has to focus on making sure that their art has the most eyes on it, or else what's the point? We're just basically dropping it to the few people that can hear it. The singles allow to build a narrative, of what the discovery is of that band over time. And as much as the fans want everything right now, just like a kid wanting every toy he's ever wanted when he's had a kid, you know what I mean? You got to pace it out, or else the fans never really become spoiled. It's not really anything like that. They're always super appreciative. But we have to take our time and know that it will be worth it in the end when that time is there. We've built enough discovery through the course of the singles and telling our story through those singles that by the time we notice there's enough wealth of knowledge from the fans that they are, now is the time and they're ready. And if you see that that window is open then to drop a record, that's when you're going to get the most out of that situation with the fans that you've built up over that time. Because, you know, these singles are also amassing an army through that period of time in terms of these singles, allowing the fans to discover your band, new fans that haven't heard of you, as well as the ones that are going to be there for the next 10, 20 years. So.
Yeah. And it's
Hey, Ryan,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to hear an album, come to a show.
There we go.
We play an album every fucking night.
Yep.
And there's some beer there too, probably.
Yeah, hey, it's not a bad way. Rock and roll beer. I mean, getting outside. I mean, it's beautiful. Now, were you guys the ones that played the national anthem in Vegas when it was like 117 degrees outside? Because I remember looking through your Facebook a couple days ago. Because we had last week we had it here in Springfield where it was like 113 heat index. Taking the dog outside for like 2 minutes. He's like, I need to get the hell back inside. So what was it like performing the national anthem in 117 degree heat?
I was a little worried at first, to be honest, when we first got there, just because of literally, I mean, as a singer, naturally, though, you know, the lead singer disease mindset, that diva mindset, you know, it's a thing that certainly exists with singers, but it does come from a place because obviously there is a lot of factors of things that can cause you to mess up. Yeah. And obviously if you mess up, you know, you messed up and you're the one kind of, you know, leading the pack, and you're the one, and a lot of times that people are watching to base an opinion off of a band. So you want to do the best you can every time. So you're conscious and manic of all the little things that can cause issues, you know what I mean? Whether it be like mold in a shitty venue that you're playing, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But if you can't breathe, you can't really sing. So when we first got there, I was a little worried just because of that heat. I'm like, are we going to be able to, you know, breathe on this field? And once we got down to the field, the shade that kind of covered that green changed the game. Everything was fine. But when we were up in the stands waiting, it was like just pounding waters, hoping for whatever air we would have when we got out there. But we went out, and I was very proud of how we did. And it was a lot better once we actually got onto the field. Like I could actually breathe.
Yeah, in the desert, it's no joke. And if you're on concrete in direct sunlight, man, you feel it. But being in the shade and on a nice, you know, sort of manicured grass field, big difference. I mean, it felt like it dropped the temperature 20 degrees, Kevin, right?
100%. It was kind of strange. I was almost wondering if they had some kind of weird air conditioner or something like that on that field. I didn't understand it. It was like, because I literally was legitimately worried. No one would have known, because aside from mentioning a few passive times, I was just kind of internalizing the whole thing, because you don't want to be that annoying guy in the band that's just sitting there. But, you know, once we kind of walked down, I was just like, oh, we're going to crush this. You know, everything was perfectly fine.
No, it's awesome. I'm glad that there's, you know, sporting events that are willing to give rock bands the chance to do some of this stuff. I mean, I interviewed Nita Strauss like a month ago. She's had the chance to do a lot of stuff in LA with sports teams, and it's always nice when, I think Dropkick Murphy shared something today. Is like, 2004 we got to be at, you know, Fenway and perform, and I'm like, you know, we need more rock bands doing national anthems and doing more performances for sporting events.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we enjoy it. I haven't seen many rock bands do it, and when they do, it's usually a guitar based, you know, like Jimi Hendrix did. Yeah. But I don't see too many rock bands singing that way. But we love the shit out of it. I mean,
well, to be fair, not a lot of rock bands can kind of attack it the way that we attack it. Like one of the things that we've made, you know, when you're in a band and you're kind of coming up and you're starting, you're looking for what your different edge, what makes you different from everybody else, or what your, you know, minute it factor is, whether you're dressing in makeup as Motley Crue in the 80s or whatever it could be, if it's something based on your performance. And when we started kind of with our rehearsals about a year ago, my focus was basically noticing that everyone in the band had a pretty solid singing ability, some better than others, and not even so much about it being better, some just on the experience level. But everyone had like an aptitude for singing, where all the bands that I've ever come in from the past, having done this so many years, it's no one that had ever attacked that. They attack their one instrument, whether it be drums or whatever. And even when people try backing vocals, you naturally know that they don't have an aptitude, at least to try it at that moment. And it's going to take them some time to get to that point, which takes sometimes years. But I noticed with us, we got a 4-piece band and everyone's got singing ability. And naturally, the only band I've really ever, I mean, there's been a million bands that have had this, but really showcasing the 4 vocal ability in a consistent stage format and through the songs, you really kind of haven't seen that since Def Leppard, where everyone's kind of really like a lot of layered vocals and they're all very prevalent. So a lot of bands couldn't kind of go and do the national anthem thing because they really have just their one singer. They can put him there. But when we did it at that baseball game, we did it like it borderline looks like a rock barbershop quartet, with the 4 harmonies, very strong, not one vocal taking.
It's not an original piece by us, right? Somebody wrote that a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was by design to have it with like the 4 vocals in this very strong, powerful unison, wall of sound, and it really came across well at that game.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. I'm glad I looked it up and I was like, man, again, this is really cool. Rock bands are getting the chance to do this stuff, and whether it's minor leagues or semi-pro, professional, whatever it is, it's like this. It's a cool thing to be able to share again. Crocodile Tears, the song that we put in rotation just today on QLZ, are to spotlight next week. And Kevin, Mark, dude, man, I appreciate taking the time and chatting today, and man, dude, really appreciate you guys chatting. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Ryan, thanks so much.